Hello, this is David Havlicek, and beginning Architectural Studio 2 in the second year of, I'm a 3-year student, Master's of Architecture, and this is the second semester studio. And I'm just going to go through some previous works, and instead of explaining uh, what they are and my design choices in them, how more my thought process was during those projects and how I have gained insight from them and how I need to improve that and hope to improve in this semester studio. Starting way at the beginning, 1.5 years ago now, this is I don't know how many people did it in this studio, but the 9 square project. And so each square had its own theme to it. And we had to think of how does this square invoke this central theme? And that's why I have these names for each of these squares. And it's starting to experiment with how space and form can look at changing how the user perceives the space. And this was a very important project, especially when entering a more design-based program compared to my technical past, that there's some sort of a human element to architecture. And it's also one of the first projects I had in Rhino, and was able to grow a lot in 3D modeling, uh, and look not more, once again, at the technical stuff like I have in the past, but looking just more at the form. And it it's kind of uh, the debate of form and function. Does form come first? Does function come first? And this way that we were looking at it here, I would argue, is starting to think of um, that dilemma, but also more experimenting with the form side of architecture, since we were just learning and beginning. That being said, we moved on in our second semester of the year with something called the Hive Community was our first project. And in this project, we had modules. We had certain designs that could be reconfigured and moved in certain ways to create a unique community, a unique pattern of units. And you can see when you put them together, the procedural side of architecture, and how you can benefit from symmetry, from asymmetry, from copying and pasting, and you can start seeing correlation between units. And that's something that I'm still working on. Um, I started in single family thinking, just designing more so just abstract free thinking, which there's a time and place for that. But there's also there's there conformity, uniformity. There's some truth to and efficiency, practicality, and usefulness, just to doing things that way. And probably one of my most learning experiences was this pavilion project. The design came from one of the inspiration photos from the start of the project, but this wasn't how I initially started. I initially started thinking of this kind of mosaic design that was just didn't it was just abstract. It just didn't have any reason to its shape, and I got some critique on it, and so I just started from scratch, and I came up with a way to curve with the site. That's why it uses these triangles, and it's able to curve around the outside. And it was a really great learning moment, in that, well, one, I shouldn't be afraid to take what architects have done in the past, take inspiration. I have a lot of architecture books, to actually pick one up and to gain insight from that, that's perfectly fine and probably more so celebrated. And also starting to experiment with taking that and then putting your own twist to it. Before it was linear, this triangular pattern with the wishbone-like columns. I switched it to, and there are some structural complications with it that kind of interrupted the design. It's probably something I'd look at again in the future if for this project's design specifically. But I was able to do something cool with with a design concept that I borrowed. Um, and I think that's kind of what architecture is supposed to be. And my latest project from last semester's studio, it was in Boyle Heights in Los Angeles. And what I did is I took the site, which is a relatively large site, and basically I created an outside form and then an inner courtyard that's more separated. And what I learned most from this project is that presentation matters. I put a lot of work in the modeling in Revit, and I kind of got lost in that because I'm used to a construction level of documentation. And I just wanted to keep going on Revit. But at one point, I should have cut off and remember that your project to a client is only as good as its presentation. And that's one thing that I really hope to be growing throughout this studio for sure. Because I almost was disheartened by the amount of effort I put in it, the amount of more effort I'd like to put into it, and yet like how little was not at the fault of uh, jurors, of course, but how little of the concepts were being able to be shown to through the presentation. I'd like to improve on that. And I think that's just quick on my progress so far at ASU and what I've gained, my insights, and hopefully growing a lot more through the semester. I'm excited and thank you.